Hey, how are you? Yeah, I wanted to talk to Matt out there about snakes because I had snakes myself for 5 years of my life. I had garter snakes and ribbon snakes, which are basically very similar, and royal ball python. I had North American water snakes. I had a typical North American water snake, and then I had a North American red-bellied water snake. Both water snakes were just cold water snakes. They didn't need to be in an aquarium. They weren't sea snakes. Um, they needed to be in a vivarium, and this just explains to the people who haven't a clue, Matt. But I equally have lost the knowledge that I had. I'm going to sneeze now in a second. I have lost the knowledge that I have about snakes on a major level. I used to know a lot more. And I used to have snakes on, or books on non-venomous snakes. And I used to watch documentaries on snakes a lot. And I still do. Um, though, if there was a snake in the room now, I'd be a bit nervous, to be honest with you, at the moment. Because I haven't seen a snake in a while. And I'd just be shocked at the start. But when I see them that's only in my room now, the example. If it was in the wild, and I knew that there's a possibility of seeing a snake, I'd be looking for them, you know. But I used to have my snakes escape on me a lot. I'd love to know your stories, Matt, on when your snakes escaped, if ever. And my snakes used to escape at home a lot, and get into the bathroom, and get into, like, there were cracks at the back of the sink, so that they could slip down into the pipe area where the hot water was coming from, and be warm down there. So you'd be sitting on the toilet sometimes, family members included, sitting on the toilet, and then suddenly, Gavin, your snake! You know, you running into the toilet, somebody be sitting on the toilet, I'd be trying to grab him, you know. None of my snakes ever bit me. My first snake was a garter snake, and I bought it in a pet shop for, I think, £15, Irish pounds, something like that. And that died because as far as my memory, I remember that died. I know it died really relatively quickly, like in a few weeks, but I just can't remember exactly why. I had a lot of problems with keeping snakes, and even though I was pretty damn good at keeping snakes with the temperature and everything like that, but just at the very start, for the first snake I got, I think he died from, I haven't a clue from what. But it could have been a mixture of things. Could have been lack of water, could have been too hot or too cold. You know, I don't know. And I was so young. I was 12, 13, and when I was 13 and 12, very young in the head, you know. So I was too young to be getting something like that, but I really wanted one. So then my next snake was a garter snake, definitely, and I called it Tights. And so Tights, I had Tights for about 4 years. Tights lasted a long time, and in comparison to the other ones, I mean. The next snake I got with Tights was given to me by a friend of my parents. He was a guy in the army, and he had a snake running around in his bedroom with his wife, with no vivarium. I mean, there was a vivarium there, but the snake never was in it, and they didn't mind. Imagine that. These are relatively quite normal people, like, just to say they wouldn't be hippie type people, you know, letting snakes be free and all that, free range snakes. But so I found that amazing. But he'd said that, like, his wife was getting just a bit more upset with it, you know, like that it was just annoying her, you know what I mean, stuff a little bit, you know, she'd get up and, you know, things, having a snake, not a wild snake, but a snake going around the carpet and stuff like that, you know, you don't know where they're going to go to the toilet and stuff, you know what I mean, stuff like that. I know it sounds sick, but yeah, so that guy gave me the first North American water snake that I got, which I called Mustang. Yeah, Mustang, because the North American Mustang, and I thought Mustang because the fangs. So I had tights and Mustang, and then I got another North American red-bellied water snake, which I called Frisky, because God, there was nothing but frisky off this guy. He never bit me, but he was very, you know, like, didn't want to be held and stuff, you know what I mean, and so I didn't hold him all the time. I knew he was an unhappy captive in my essentially cage. Even though I did let my snakes out into the bath a lot, including the garter snake, you know, it's good to let them into the bath and swim around and stuff and stretch and whatever and do whatever you like in the bath. And they were also all over my bedroom floor. You know, I'd let them out, you know, and if they shit it, oh God, oh well. And I had a fluffy carpet, you know, not a fluffy carpet, like, don't be thinking that, but a bit like this material, so if they shitted, it was really annoying because they shitted and pissed at the same time. But the last snake I had was the royal ball python, and that didn't last long at all. That lasted 6 months. I was not ready for that snake either, and you know, but it was a beautiful snake, and of course I feel really sorry for all these pets. It's like the children, it's like adults when they remember the childhood and all the pets they had that they just simply didn't look after properly, you know. I mean, I did look after my snakes properly, but not if they died after like 5 years, do you know what I mean? Like, that's not funny. So I think my teenage time was not the time to be looking after pets, because I was trying to look after myself, do you know. But at school, at the fairs for school, I used to be Snake Man, and at that time I didn't even know I was Snake XXY. You know, I wasn't very popular in school, so like it just happened to be that way, that, you know, I happened to love snakes, and people said, "Oh, you have snakes? Can you bring them in for the fair?" And I was like, "Oh God, no, please! I don't want to talk to people." But I did bring them in a couple of years, about 3 years in a row. I brought them in, and, you know, took them out and showed people and got people to realise that they're not such scary creatures. But then one year, the last year, somebody brought in a spider or something like that, or a scorpion or something like that, in the same room, and I wasn't at all happy with that. You know, so I understand people's phobias and stuff on certain animals, for instance. Yeah, totally. So yeah, Matt, if you'd like to get into more videos on snakes, I'd be really interested in hearing some of your stories and some of the stuff that is part of daily life of having snakes, living with snakes. And I'm jealous of you to have all those snakes, you know, and they're in great condition and excellent vivariums you've created for them, and, you know, and so fair play to you to be able to look after not only yourself but your friends who happen to be snakes. And people often were like, you know, and do you have a relationship with the snakes? Do you understand the snakes? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, not all of my snakes. I mean, Mustang, we had a very good connection. There was no problem at all there, you know. You know, he communicated to me, like, through the vivarium, like, you know, in certain ways, like, you know, what he needed. I was very Mustang lasted the longest. I think we did have a very special connection, you know, and I used to look in Mustang's eyes, you know, straight on, like, you know, the tongue would be touching off my nose, you know, and we just look at each other, you know. I think it's important to look at in the eyes of human, or not human, in the eyes of living creatures. I mean, you know, there is a communication. I mean, looking at a dog's eyes as well, you know, and they look at you again, you know, and they twist their head, you know, they're doing exactly what we're doing. They're like, huh, you know. So there's no difference with snakes. But I loved that guy. I can't remember, Irwin, was it? The guy who did the Australian Zoo thing, the crocodile hunter guy. He was brilliant, wasn't he? With the snake episodes, like, you know, saying this is a really poisonous snake, but look at, if you're not going to do anything to him, he's not going to do anything to you, which is 90% of the reality, I think. But again, Matt, I'd love to discuss snakes with you. It'd be really a great topic to keep happy. Yeah. Okay, cool. See ya.